what is the difference between an addiction and a habit? If there is one, what do you think?
I think so. The word addiction is something that's really complicated, and it doesn't really mean, you can't really put it in a box. You can't really define it quickly, or I don't really like a dictionary definition of addiction.
Mm-hmm.
A habit, I think, is just something that you do that gets in your memory, that becomes something that you kind of do without thinking about it.
Mm-hmm.
So a habit is definitely part of what an addiction is.
Absolutely, yeah.
But I would say that a habit is part of an addiction.
Yeah.
I think about addiction in terms of a relationship, and I think that probably describes it more than just something that you do compulsively.
Yeah, like a habit seems to be, it would be a layer.
It's a layer of what addiction is.
In like you said, relationship is a much better way. Now the word addict is sort of kind of going away, right? Isn't that sort of it's got a stigma about it now?
I think
I'm
so.
reading that in a lot of literature. They're using different terms instead of addictions, and they're using substance abuse.
In the treatment world.
In the treatment world.
And in the world of treatment professionals and counselors, because there is stigma associated with the word addict. I work with a lot of probationers, and I always cringe when probation officers say, well, you're just an addict, so you need to do that. Well, you're just an addict, so you need to do this. I don't think that's a good use of the word. I would never call another person an addict.
Gotcha.
But I think it is useful for people who self-identify as such.
Okay. That makes sense.
I think it's not something that I would call someone else, but I support people identifying as such.
Right.
If that makes any sense.
It does. It does, because in a meeting you're going to identify as that. But I've heard some people say, I'm so-and-so and I'm in recovery.
And that's
Or they'd
fine.
say whatever they want to say. I've never said, hi, I'm Skip and I've got a habit.
That's right.
Right?
A habit can be all kinds of things. Like you could have good habits. Working out in the morning's a habit.
Well, there's a lot of good habits you could have.
Yeah, there's a ton of good habits.
It's actually a headgear for a nun. I mean, sorry.
Headgear. But I don't think there's ever a good addiction.
Right.
I don't think you can have a good addiction. Addiction is always something that is destructive to your life.
Because it takes away from it, by nature of what it is,
Yes.
It takes away from other things in your life.
Addiction becomes the most important relationship in your life, and thus robs you of your other relationships. It becomes the priority. It becomes what you seek. It becomes your source of comfort and security. And that, by its nature, is eroding the other relationships in your life that you don't have as much time for.
Mm-hmm. And I guess, I'll be a little naive here and surfacey, but let's say you're addicted to nicotine. Okay, like cigarettes. Well, people would say that's not near harmful and would fit into that description you gave until they try to quit cigarettes for 3 days and then see what happens.
Well,
right?
I actually consider cigarettes as more of a habit than an addiction.
Okay, good. That's what we're talking about. Explain, sir.
So cigarette is definitely a habit. It becomes, you get all the triggers. There is an addiction to it. I mean, I guess there's an addiction to
Nicotine and caffeine and all that kind of different stuff.
But it's not in the same vein of addiction as heroin addiction is.
Oh, yeah.
Or meth addiction
But I think I know where you're going with this, because I'm not a smoker, never have been, okay? Very lucky. I would think that the habit of how you get them out, light them, smoke them, the time you do it and all that is the habit. Is that part of it?
Yeah, that's part of it.
Muscle,
and
actual doing it?
It's a very strong habit, because every time you do that as a habit, it's reinforced with a little chemical kick.
Gotcha.
So you get that little dopamine or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So it is a dependency that people have.
Mm-hmm.
It is addictive in the sense that if you try to stop, then it's going to be very difficult.
Mm-hmm.
And it's
Right.
addictive in the sense that people that have really good reasons to stop don't stop.
Yeah. Yeah.
And people do have a relationship with cigarettes. It becomes something that they really need to do. So it does kind of fit into that. This is why addiction is not an easy thing to pin down.
I just had this conversation a couple of days ago because it's so in the 80s and 90s when we were trying to help people solve this addiction thing, they would just say, do this, go to jail.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Pay a fine, do whatever, and it just doesn't work. You can't say there's no one fix, is there? It's individual. This guy and this guy may have a lot in common, but to help them in recovery couldn't be more night and day on that, how their journey is versus, and it's a one-on-one, slow process, takes a lifetime to do it, and that's why it's so hard.
It is a hard problem to solve, and it affects people on every level.
Yep.
On an individual level, family level, society level. It requires, but at the end of the day, it requires one-on-one work with a person who's
and addicted. As much layers as the word addiction has, recovery's got just as many layers going the other direction, right?
That's right.
And okay, I'll throw out some things. In your opinion, this will be the $20,000 pyramid or $10,000 pyramid. Right, I'll say an answer and you say it quickly. Gambling, addiction or habit?
Addiction.
Pornography, addiction or habit?
Addiction.
Caffeine, addiction or habit?
Habit.
Working out, addiction or habit?
Habit. I thought a little bit about that one, but habit.
Yeah. What about eating, addiction or habit?
Addiction. Working out could be an addiction too. This is how
if it involves with body dysmorphia type
this
stuff.
This is how I differentiate. This is how I think about it.
Okay, good.
Because I get the question a lot. What's the difference between someone who's a normal drinker versus an alcoholic?
That gets us.
What's the difference?
What makes them an alcoholic?
So, a person who's a normal drinker likes the effect of alcohol because everyone who drinks likes the effect of alcohol.
Yeah.
Otherwise, nobody would do it.
Right.
They like the pleasant.
There's a payoff.
Yeah. It's good for your social life. You feel more confident. You feel more relaxed, less anxious. So those are the positives of it. People who are alcoholics don't like the feeling of being sober.
Okay.
And that's a major difference.
Wow.
Because normal drinkers can be okay sober, and then they like the little kick of drinking. Alcoholics do not like the feeling of being sober, and so they drink to get themselves to be okay.
Wow. Man, you could use that for a lot of stuff, couldn't you? That description.
That's
good one.
We're people who are working out, if they can't feel okay when they're not working out, if they're completely in agony because they miss a day, then I think that's getting into addiction.
Okay.
Because they might have that body image problem where they're beating up on themselves because they missed a workout. So I think that's when it comes into the realm of addiction.
Eating disorders.
Definitely.
That would fall into what you're describing.
Yeah, I mean, I think that that bulimia or anorexia is an addiction because it's a constant compulsive behavior that they have to do in order to feel okay. Mm-hmm. People who are bulimic have to purge to feel okay about eating and okay about themselves.
Yeah. Yep. And it starts playing tricks on their minds big time.
It does.
Yeah. Okay. That's good. So at the same point, when we talk about in some of the classes and some of the, when we have court to recovery class that we teach and talks about people and gives them an introduction into alcohol and substances, I ask them a lot of times what makes somebody an alcoholic versus just a casual drinker. And the standard issue answer across the board is, well, when they get up in the morning, they have to drink. Or they have to drink all day just to feel normal. Or they got to stop shaking. Well, I guess all that's probably pretty true, right?
It is.
But that describes what you said so much perfect, because I think, to me, I've always said when you go from drinking or taking what you're taking to get that little pop and feel better to you have to have it just to feel normal, it's already flipped.
Just to be okay with yourself.
Just to be on your okay to have a normal day, that script flipped on you already.
Addiction is a condition that exists with or without the use of drugs or alcohol. It is a strong feeling of not belonging, disconnection, loneliness, isolation that is fixed with doing whatever you're doing. That could be gambling, that could be eating, that could be working out, that could be your job, that could be sex. But classically, that is substances, because drugs have that direct effect on your brain that produce dependency. So
quickly fixes that issue for
and it fixes
temporarily.
it. It's medicine.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah, it's a solution.
That's what drugs are.
Yeah.